Welcome to 40k Memes. What's on the docket today, Manuel?
I know, he's so full of it. He's so evil, and he loves it. You gotta respect that!
When you look at or for the most despised characters in Warhammer 40k, you will find Erebus near the top, or at the top depending on the person. He is a shoo-in for every top 10, or bottom 10, or whatever framing device a person uses to talk about the characters the universe resents. Right up there with Urda and the hated Space Marine Officer of the Week. There are a lot of Space Marine stories, they're gonna have more bad apples than every other faction put together. But we're here to talk about Erebus. Specifically, why so much hatred for Erebus today? And yesterday, and tomorrow. Like a nominee for Game of the Year in 2020, it's eternal. And being part of the most hated Space Marine Legion, by a wide margin, certainly helps. But which was hated first? And again, why? Well, in order to answer that, I'm gonna have to go back. We begin on a planetary dump known as Chalchis, which would become the adoptive home of Lorgar, but that's a longer story for another time. It was a hyper-religious world wherein lived a little boy. He was a most mischievous boy, inciting fights between others, spreading secrets or making them up when he didn't have any to spread, sowing discord for the sheer fun of it. And one day his parents pulled him aside and said, "You're a shithead. You need to behave. You should be more like that nice boy, Erebus." And the boy took this to heart. A little too deeply to heart by drowning Erebus in a river, getting his face tattooed to match Erebus's facial tattoos, and stealing the boy's identity. So we're already off to a great start. Capitalizing on the perks of his identity swap, the young man who would be Erebus went to study with the church, learning about piety and worship and vows of poverty, which he all found exceedingly boring. But then one day he stared into a cracked mirror, realized the Chaos Gods existed, no, I'm not joking, that is really all it took, and said, "That's cool, I'ma sign on with those guys." Anyway, time passes, Erebus networks with Lorgar until the Big E arrived on the scene. Good news! The Emperor is here to bring Chalchis into the greater fold of the Imperium. By extension, meaning that Erebus and a bunch of other nerds who were close to Lorgar got to become Astartes. Bad news! The Emperor has outlawed all religion, save for the Mechanicus at this point, but he'll deal with their bullshit later. However, Lorgar, being a good Sunday school boy, wasn't just gonna sit idle, not praising the Emperor. So he built a grand city of worship, a proper Vatican city on a planet called Kur. Then the Emperor caught wind of this and said, "Hey, you wanna praise something? Praise orbital bombardment, my son!" And leveled the great city in order to get Lorgar and the Word Bearers overall to knock it off with the religion. Naturally, Lorgar was inconsolable after having the very being he tried to worship come around and glass his city of gold. Luckily, Erebus was there to make him feel better. He slid onto the scene in his best power armor vestments and he said, "Don't worry, Pop, there are beings in the universe that really like being praised. Meet the god of killing people, the god of unending stink, the god of doing what you don't expect when you most expect it, and the goddess of things that would get this video flat deleted from YouTube." So that was one Primarch on the side of chaos, but admittedly a weaker Primarch. Erebus set his sights high on the biggest name in town, which was, of course, Horus Lupercal. First step was for him to get real buddy-buddy with Horus, and the Luna Wolves, / Sons of Horus, / Black Legion, / these guys have too many fucking names. Second step was to loan out his super cool sword called Anathema to a traitor governor who was feeling the power of Nurgle. Final step, when Horus gets stabbed by said sword and is comatose from Nurgle's blessing, the sons of Horus will seek out Erebus for help, which he will provide, channeling the healing power of chaos and whispering in Horus's ear while he's asleep. Which means that when Horus wakes up, he's thinking, yeah, I could go for chaos right about now. And now that you mention it, you're right, Erebus. We should shore up loyalty in the ranks by heading over to Istvan 3 and virus bombing every one of our own troops who aren't completely down to serve chaos. That's 2 Primarchs fully devoted to chaos, and the heresy is in full swing. But you know, Erebus just can't help but go for the Primarch corruption hat trick. So he goes to have a little powwow with a Death Guard captain named Typhus. You see, Magnus was already on the short road to Tzeentch, and doing many things wrong. Kurz would take care of himself. Omegon and Alfarius were doing whatever they were doing. Lorgar was taking care of Angron. Fulgrim was Fulgrim. And talking to Perturabo was like trying to chat up a brick wall with an angry face drawn on it. That just left Mortarion, who wasn't pulling his weight with the gods. Which led Erebus and Typhus to form a little plan. Short version of this plan, plant evidence on the navigators of Death Guard ships to have them executed as double agents, thus allowing Typhus to gain control of the flagship, drive it directly into the section of the warp controlled by Nurgle, and the Plague God would take it from there. A plan cooked and served to rotten perfection. And in the end, Erebus's well-earned reward is to have the absolute stuffing beaten out of him by Karn, who had cottoned onto Erebus's Littlefinger or Ben Linus Machiavellian type bullshit, and needed to work through some emotions. But didn't get to kill the first chaplain of the Word Bearers because of plot. I mean because Erebus teleported away. Because you don't waste a good villain. Erebus has been instigating all of it. And he still is to a degree, but after doing the heavy lifting to get the Enterprise off the ground, he's content to let Abaddon steer the ship for a little while. Still, he is a massive asshole villain, and that's why he's so awesome. No, I'm being serious. Over the years, Warhammer 40k's writing has been extremely varied, to put it mildly. It's just the nature of having so much lore written by so many authors, only some of whom talk to each other. And in my estimation, it's the characters that suffer the most because of this. You've got characters that are supposed to be liked, which are hated, characters which are supposed to be hated, which are beloved, characters who are exceedingly smart in one book, and dumber than a rock in the next. It is what it is. But not with Erebus. Come rain or shine, he's gonna be evil, and he's gonna do it with a smile. The fact of the matter is that there was always gonna be someone whispering in Horus's ear. The big guy was never gonna side with Chaos of his own volition. And if the Chaos Gods didn't get him, they would have gotten someone else. There was always going to be an almost literal agent of chaos. To which Erebus not only took that role, he relished it. He was an overachiever. And he does us all a favor by being so simple. No understandable motive, no flashes of good, no loss of potential. He's just a pure dickhead from top to bottom. Hatred for a person who is well and truly hateable. It is so refreshing. And that is why everyone hates Erebus explained. You're welcome. Who had cottoned onto Erebus's Littlefinger or Ben Linus Who had cottoned on to Erebus's Littlefinger or Ben Linus type Machiavellian. Who had cottoned on to Erebus's Littlefinger or Ben Linus Machiavellian. Who had who had caught onto Erebus's little finger or Ben Linus Machiavellian.